Hey everyone, I'm Daniel Rondberg, and in this video, I'm gonna go through the 6 biggest retirement mistakes I see all the time. So let's get into this video. I'm just gonna dive right in. Hands down is a lack of liquidity. I've sat in thousands of meetings, I've seen tons of different scenarios, and by far the number one thing that's holding people back is they have a lack of liquidity. When you don't have enough emergency expenses in the bank, and I call it an abundance fund, an emergency fund, a sleep well at night fund, 12 to 24 months expenses in the bank, you become very limited in the choices that you make, because if you don't have enough liquidity, you're constantly going to be worried about, well, I can't invest this because I might lose it. I can't spend this because I might need it. You have to have the right base, the right foundation before you can build. All the time people are trying to buy insurance or do something like investing and they don't even have enough liquidity. You gotta have that comfort level money number, whatever that number is. And it may be more than 6 to 12 months expenses, 24 months expenses. It could be whatever you need, but whatever you need so that you can operate from an abundance mindset and go accomplish things effectively, that's the number you have to achieve first. Most people don't have that. Not enough guaranteed lifetime income. What counts as guaranteed lifetime income? You're talking about Social Security, you're talking about a pension, you're talking about an annuity. Those are the 3 forms of guaranteed lifetime income. The reason you need to have those guaranteed forms of lifetime income in retirement is because if you're not working, you're not able to produce income. And because you're not able to produce income, you have to have money to live. And you have to have that money guaranteed and insured. There's all kinds of psychological reasons and benefits why people who have pensions are happier and live longer. That's not a myth. That's not something I made up. Not only tons of data to back this up, but I think it's just a well-known fact now that people who have pensions generally live longer because they have less stress and they're able to live more freely and enjoy their life and be able to do the things they really want to do. And sometimes they can even develop a really keen sense of purpose, which is my mission to share with people, is how to help discover their purpose in retirement. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, is not having that guaranteed lifetime income covered every month, because then what ends up happening is you have to pull money from your assets, or you have to ask someone for money. You might even have to go back to work part-time. I don't know about you, but my definition of retirement doesn't include working part-time. It's really important and crucial that you have that bucket filled and met absolutely every single month. If you don't, you're constantly going to be worried about, am I pulling out too much? Am I pulling out too little? Am I going to take a loss that's going to impact me? This is crucial to have this met. It's the second biggest mistake I see people make. No plan for long-term care. Tom Hegna says there's no retirement plan that's complete without a plan for long-term care, and he's right. And I'm going to talk about another one of these mistakes here in a second, but if you notice, the law has a plan for you for long-term care. They also have an estate plan, but I'm going to talk about that in a second. Think about it from the government standpoint. You have all these citizens in your state. They're going to age, they're going to die. You need to have a method, a legal method to take care of them as they age and they maybe become unable to care for themselves or make decisions. And then you need to have a process in case they pass away so that you can handle their estate and their affairs and make sure that their assets get distributed to their next of kin. This is called a probate. The tough part about long-term care is you have to retire, generate income for 30 to 40 years, and then you have the largest expenses you're ever going to have in your life right at the very end. And it can be astronomical. Long-term care is a thing that wipes people out. I mean, the second biggest reason for bankruptcy in our country is healthcare-related reasons. Now, it's not long-term care necessarily, but that is a huge problem for people when they don't have a plan or a bucket of money set aside or a policy set aside for long-term care to neutralize that risk and just take it off the table. Not having a long-term care plan is a huge mistake. You know, oftentimes I sit with people, clients all the time will say things like, well, when I get to that point, I'm just going to put my revolver in my mouth. I say back to them, okay, that might be your plan, but you know, what happens if you get to a point where your memory goes? Again, very grim plans. It's not something I want for me, but I think it's just a huge mistake because those plans aren't really plans. They're just scapegoats to not have that conversation. And I think it's really crucial to have that plan, because if you do become a burden on your family, what ends up happening is they become really resentful as they care for you. It becomes this really stressful thing. They have to liquidate assets. Maybe the surviving spouse isn't cared for. It's just a huge problem. You want to avoid it at all costs. Mistake number 4 is they underestimate their life expectancy. Again, I'm in my 30s, so please forgive me. I'll be there one day, so I understand that I need to have a lot of understanding and empathy and try to put my mindset in the mindset of my clients. But when people turn 60, it's almost like a lot of them think like the last car I'll ever buy, this is the last laptop I'll ever buy. You know, they get into this like they're dying all of a sudden, which I could understand why, because when you get to a certain point in your life and you feel like you have less time than you had before, people could start to change their perception and their thoughts. I see it all the time. That's totally normal. But they significantly underestimate their life expectancy. They make some huge financial mistakes. But the reality is most of them will make it way past 75, and people need to be planning, to live longer instead of to die sooner. If you die sooner, your plan should be able to compensate and change for you because you had enough money. But the reality is you really could live to be into your 90s or even your hundreds. I touched on this earlier, was no estate plan. Now, every state has an estate plan for you because they need to figure out what to do with your assets after you're gone. In Arizona, there's a certain limit. For example, it's like $100,000 of equity in a house and $75,000 in cumulative assets without a beneficiary. It's going to trigger a probate. The state of Arizona is going to step in. They're going to help figure out who your next of kin is. Again, I'm not an attorney. This isn't like legal opinion or advice or anything like that. I'm just saying this is how it works. Like, they have to figure out where the money goes, and that's why you have to have named beneficiaries on everything so that they know where the money's supposed to go. All the time it happens, I see people come to my office who need to settle an estate, and please recognize that if you're leaving somebody with this job, it becomes a year of their life. It's a full-time job for most people. Sometimes it's a mess. People come to my office with this big box full of receipts and old statements and folders from policies and bank accounts, and they're just trying to figure it all out. And you really have to step into someone's shoes and pick up where they left off. So that's why having a clear estate plan is so important. Not everybody's going to need a trust. I think it's crucial to have powers of attorney, because if you're not able to care for yourself, you need to be able to hand that off to somebody. If you become incapacitated or just mentally not able to do it, you need to have yourself protected and set up. A simple will to kind of leave people a guide. I go a step further with my clients and I have them write something called a letter from heaven. This was given to me years ago by a guy named Paul Garofoli, absolutely incredible man. I saw him speak one time and just changed my life. But this letter from heaven is like something you write with your estate plan, where you get a 5-minute phone call back to earth and you can communicate to your loved ones, a message you want to leave with them, and also instructions and a guide to follow to make sure that everything gets taken care of properly and it becomes easier on them. So having the right estate plan, the right people in place, the right documents in place. And I'll say one more thing about estate planning, just be careful. There's all these cheap document sites and preparers, nothing wrong with those, but just be careful. You get what you pay for. And for me, I had an attorney do mine just because I want it done right. I know they're in probate courts all day. I know they know how the law works. It's better, in my mind, to spend the extra $500 or a couple $1,000s to make sure that your wishes are going to be taken care of and you're going to be taken care of, than to try to save some money on your documents in that way. That's just my thought. Again, just take it for what it is. The last one by far is extremely common, and that is taking your Social Security wrong out of fear or misinformation. There is a ton of misinformation floating around about Social Security. I hear people come to my office all the time well, the government's bankrupt. I'm not going to get my money. I got to take it now. It just makes sense for me. The break-even analysis doesn't make sense. I'd be better off doing this. Look, I had the privilege of interviewing Professor Lawrence Kutlikoff. He's the foremost authority on Social Security in the world. I don't know why he even did an interview with me. For me, it was like my celebrity moment. It was so cool to get to sit with this guy. He just shared a wealth of knowledge in one of my interviews. I have it in a video you can check out. Put the link to that video down below. But what Larry said was, you don't save up a pile of money in case your house burns down. You don't try to invest money and try to make more of it in case your house doesn't burn down. You just buy fire insurance, right? Social Security is an insurance product. It's an insurance product to help you from living too long or to protect your spouse from living too long. People all the time are constantly trying to make the most out of their Social Security, but they're assuming they know their life expectancy. And again, not knowing your life expectancy and making poor decisions out of fear or misinformation can cost you, in some cases, $1 million in your retirement. So it's so key that you get the Social Security thing right. And I love the way, again, I'm going to reference Tom Hagney. I heard him speak years ago, and he said, if you can, the breadwinner should always delay, because that benefit's going to cover 2 lives. And you really want to maximize that benefit for you and your family with all the COLAs and the step-ups and everything that you get for waiting. So it's not the right answer for everybody by far. And again, this isn't advice on Social Security. I'm just saying you don't want to just jump the gun, or you don't want to file it really quickly or do what everyone else is doing or think you can calculate the math on your own. You really want to make the best decision long term. And you really want to think it through and make sure you sit down with somebody who knows what they're doing. Professor Kutlikoff puts out an incredible software called Maximize My Social Security. I've used it for years, and it helps people to really narrow in and make the right choice when it comes to Social Security, because they can see all the data. And that's really important, to know everything when you're making that choice. You've spent a lifetime paying into it. It deserves a little bit more than a couple hours to figure it out. It's a crucial decision. So these are the 6 top mistakes I see people make in their retirement all the time. I hope this video is impactful for you. I hope that it helped you from not making any of these mistakes. If you're on the fence on any of these, if you want to talk more about these, please click the link below. I'm happy to chat. And if you like this video, please feel free to comment. Maybe think about subscribing. If you want to see a different kind of video or you have questions, please leave them in the comments below. I respond to all of those, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.